The people in this room are representing 200 million plus Nigerians who are not able to be in this room, but you are a voice for them tonight, and you are able to interrogate the process that would determine our nation's future for the next few years. So let the conversation begin, and to put some background to the conversation, let's look at the laws, and let's look at some of the gray areas. With me on the screen, Samson. You and your colleagues have identified 7 areas that top provisions in the Electoral Act, and it will help us to lay background to the conversation as we begin. The very first one is the issue of electoral funding timeline. This is a big one, isn't it, Samson?
It's indeed a big one, because one way to undermine elections is to starve the Electoral Commission of its funding. Now, the current act provides that INEC will receive its funding 6 months before an election, or not later than 6 months, or later 6 months before the elections. That's a deviation from the 2022 Act. The 2022 Act provides that INEC will get its funding 12 months before elections. So if INEC does not have all the money that it needs to conduct elections at least 1 year before the elections, it will definitely put the Electoral Commission under pressure. But this is one provision, the new provision in the Act.
And of course, we know what happened. It was 360 days in the last, at least 360 days in the last Electoral Act as amended, which allows for INEC to be able to get its funding. But in 2023, you know what happened. INEC couldn't get 100% of its funding. I'm wondering what really happened this time around, where we have to half that provision is now putting a lot of pressure. 2025, we're still considering 2026 budget.
Exactly.
Now, and the election process has started.
2 years after the 2023 elections, INEC informed Nigerians that it hadn't received all the monies for the 2023 elections. And that encalls on INEC's independence. And so if the elections are just 361 days, and in March, we haven't passed the 2026 budget, you're definitely going to put the Electoral Commission under pressure that could lead to logistical challenges. And we pray that does not happen.
I know INEC is on the first line charge funding in the federal budget, but again, INEC has always experienced some glitches when it comes to not only technical glitches but funding glitches. Accepted IDs for voter registration. We now know specifically now what the law says. Birth certificate, Nigerian passport, and NIN, but this has been cancelled.
Absolutely. I think Nigerians should know that there are only 3 official documents that are acceptable during voter registration: your birth certificate, your Nigerian passport, and your national identity number. In other words, your NIMSI ID. I think it's a good provision, because we can't, as a country, not have a civil register of who we are. So I think it's great. Driver's license, other ID cards have been removed, but Nigerians should know that these are the only 3 documents that you can tender during voter registration. I pray that we get to a point when we have a national register, and once you turn 18, you just go to the polling unit and cast your vote, or INEC can draw the voter register from the civil register. And I think that's where we're going to as a country. But this is one of the laudable provisions.
National Population Commission, the Nigerian Immigration Service, and NIMSI. These are the agencies of government that are issuing these certificates or these IDs. So it's important that every Nigerian know where to run to or where to turn to in getting all of that done. Now, this is another addition to the provision of the law.
That's right.
Now you can download your voter card. You don't have to wait for your PVCs. Is that what the law is saying?
Well, that's what the law is saying, but there's need for clarity. But one of the things we celebrate is that this particular law provides that you can download your voter's card online. Previously, people couldn't vote at elections, not because they didn't show up to collect their PVCs, but due to administrative lapses on the part of INEC. And so you're disenfranchising people, even if their names on the voters register. So this provision would increase voter turnout, but also prevent against disenfranchisement. But there's a great need for INEC, in issuing its regulations to provide better clarity. Again, this is one of the big wins in the 2026 Electoral Act.
So for those who have just turned 18 and you probably just written JAMB and you know how you print your slip at those centers where you write the exam, it's pretty much close to how you can easily download your voter card and be able to print it out. That's an addition. but also we need to keep an eye, and sensitization has to be done a lot. Now, timeline for submission of candidate, a very, very big one. I know you're laughing, and there is a major worry as to how political parties will be able to meet up with this.
You know, I think Nigerians should know that previously the political parties had 180 days before the day of an election to submit their list of candidates. Now that has been reduced to 120 days. Since we're going to be having conversations with the parties, I would defer to that session and listen, to the parties, what they think. But what's important is that what the law now provides is that parties should submit their list of candidates 120 days before the date of an election.
Another provision here is the publication of candidate lists by INEC. There is a reduction in the amended law 2026 about this.
Quite frankly, I don't understand the rationale behind this. There's a reason why the 2022 Act provides for 150 days, 5 months before the date of an election. It gives INEC sufficient time to deal with issues about logistics, print ballot papers. To have reduced this to 60 days will put INEC under immense pressure. These comprise timelines were just unnecessary. It's just sad that that is the case now. But what the lawmakers have done, and the president, by assenting to this bill, is reduce this to 60 days. So 60 days before the date of an election, INEC will publish the list of candidates. And I tell you, that's when INEC will start printing ballot papers. So there is some logistical implications. And I just wish that the lawmakers differed,
on this particular provision.
When they were enacting this.
Since the day INEC was born, logistics has been an INEC disease, and it's not been able to resolve it.
But this
whether or not that will
change. Going to worsen it, because there was a reason why it was 150 was introduced in the 2022 Act to give INEC sufficient time.
Well, you're compounding the logistic problem of INEC.
That's why in 2023 we were able to print ballot papers and result sheets in Nigeria for the very first time since 1999. We've always produced our ballot papers and result sheets outside the country. But when INEC had sufficient time, it was able, to localize the production. But now, this, no doubt, will put INEC under immense pressure.
I wish I can consult my younger brother who is a medical doctor. Maybe he can help fix INEC major disease, which is logistics. I don't know how we're going to get around that. But, well, let's see how that goes. Electronic transmission of result. Transmission. This is a real issue that a lot of Nigerians, if you don't know anything about the issues around the Electoral Act amendment, a lot of Nigerians know transmission of result, which is a major issue. And that's where we saw the division in the National Assembly.
I think that some call this the elephant in the room. But I'd say that this was a missed opportunity for Nigeria. And this was a moment when our political leaders had the opportunity of writing their names in gold by giving Nigerians what they demand. I think the proviso in this particular provision is the problem, because it undermines, the whole concept of electronic transmission of results and transparency. I just wished that the lawmakers eliminated that particular proviso. This is why we've made a call to them to commence the process of amending the Act and just delete that particular proviso. That way, as a country, we will maximize the utility of electronic transmission of results, because it limits human interference. It makes the whole process open and transparent. If politicians are not scared, I see no reason why this was not really considered in its full breadth.
Well, we'll see how that goes. So, mode of primaries. This is where I cannot have an opinion in this, but I have a problem.
You need a medical doctor for this.
I have a problem with this. You have a mode of primary. You added one in the last law. You are removing another one this time around. What sense does it make?
Well, I don't know. I'm still trying to make sense of this, because what the lawmakers did is to eliminate indirect primaries. Now, you can argue that, yes, direct primaries devolves power to the people. But I thought that one of the philosophy behind one of the provisions that parties should issue guidelines for direct primaries was to defer to the parties, because it's an internal party affair. So on one hand, you say you're deferring to the parties to issue guidelines for direct primaries, but you're also conscripting them to only direct and consensus. I thought that this was, again, a missed opportunity,
And I
but they
don't
have
think
their reasons.
nothing would have happened if they left it.
It's good we have a session with party chairmen and leaders, so we'll wait to see what they have to say.
Thank you, Samson. The other one, which perhaps is the last, is a compulsory digital membership register. For this reason, a political party had come to meet INEC that they cannot take the timeline or the schedule of the election of 2026, and this is one of the major issues. Whether or not most of the political parties will be able to meet the 21 days ultimatum that has been given before their primaries.
I think Nigerians need to know that the issue is not parties not meeting 21 days deadline. It's the fact that we dragged this amendment process
Too long,
and then it now conflicts with the issue about time.
Our senators needed to rest. They went on recess because House of Reps, you need to give them kudos. Look, call out those who are at fault. House of Reps member, they did their job before they went on December break. But our senators cooled off. They
see the chairman smiling.
Oh yeah, they cooled off and they came back in January and we started rushing.
No, quite frankly, there's nothing wrong with this provision. I think this is a very positive development. Why? Because it seeks to sanitize party membership within our political parties by providing this structure. The big challenge with this is the issue about time. You can clearly see most of the parties are struggling to now develop their digital register. Well, the law is the law. You must comply with the law, but note that you must submit your digital register with members, their names, their photographs, and their name 21 days, because there's a consequence. If you don't meet this condition, you'll be disqualified from fielding candidates in the next elections.
Thank you, Samson. I think we've come to the end of these particular analyses, which gives us an opportunity to look at the issues differently. Thank you so much, Samson.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
Pleasure.